Hey guys, and welcome to day number 28 of Inktober. So as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I'm currently running a sale over in my Etsy shop, and the details for that sale will be in the description of this video. So as I look at this piece, there are a number of things that run through my mind. I continued with the theme of pushing myself as far as poses are concerned, because I've only ever drawn a handful of people actually sitting down. And I knew that I wanted to do at least one illustration of someone sitting this month, specifically because last year during Inktober, when I really couldn't draw at all, I drew someone sitting in a chair. So I was more brave back when I first started than I am now that I actually kind of know what I'm doing, and that was bothering me a little bit. And overall, it definitely turned out much better than last year's illustration. As is to be expected, I have a better grasp of how anatomy works, and it translates into different poses that I'm not quite as comfortable with. However, there are definitely things about this piece that I'm not happy with, and I believe that a big part of this is I was very unprepared. I have been scanning my sketches into my computer and digitally altering them to get them to a place where I'm ready to work with them, and with this piece in particular, I knew that it was off, and I proceeded anyways. I've been trying to not be so bad about this, and the thing is, when I sat down to actually start the illustration, I knew that it was off, and that really caused me to hesitate and not want to work on the illustration in the first place, because I knew that it was off. There's something very strange about the placement of her head. It's too far to the right, and you can see too much of her right shoulder, but besides that, when I printed this off, I printed it too small, and I tried to reprint it to be larger so that the framing would be better. Unfortunately, the printer was not working, and so it was just kind of one disaster after another. And this is kind of, I think, what I was trying to avoid in the last few days of Inktober. I mentioned in the last video that I really wouldn't like everything to come back to haunt me in the last few days of this challenge, but I did get the illustration completed. However, it is very likely that I'm going to end up redoing this piece. If it were not for the fact that I am heavily considering creating a printed book version of these illustrations, I might leave it alone. However, I did a poll over on my Instagram asking if people would be interested in seeing a book version, likely accompanied by something that's kind of like poetry, but it's not really poetry because it doesn't follow any rules. But it's not really prose because it's not written in full sentences. It's just me writing words that sound good together. And the majority voted that yes, they would like to see that. And I also am very excited about the idea of having this as a place to go in the future, because I am a very future-oriented person, and I don't like to go with the flow of singular days. I like to think very far in advance. And so, naturally, my brain is working with all of the things I want to do after Inktober is complete. One of these things is NaNoWriMo. I've mentioned it before. But I also want to do video projects, and I want to do art book projects, and there's just so much on my mind. And honestly, I think that's a big part of why Inktober has been such a challenge for me specifically. And Inktober is going to be hard for you no matter who you are, unless of course you're one of the people who have been drawing consistently every day for a very long time, then it's almost nothing new. But for me, a big part of the challenge of Inktober is not necessarily the drawing every day, because I can sketch daily, and I have for extended periods of time. The real dilemma comes for me when I set a personal goal for myself to do full illustrations, and then I don't have enough time to properly prep those same illustrations. And honestly, I think that's what this piece fell victim to, was just a lack of planning. And as I mentioned, I probably will end up redoing it. I'll scale it up, fix the anatomy and everything, and hopefully it will turn out better than this one. Even though I don't think that this one in particular is horrible. Another thing about this piece is that the tones are very weird. I've been working a lot with value over this challenge. I realized that I haven't really put the amount of thought and effort into learning things like value and lights and darks in the composition of a piece. So I have been trying to make a conscious effort to balance those out. And this is easier when your illustration is in black and white as opposed to color, because when you're working with colors, sometimes it's hard to actually see how light or dark a color is in comparison to the colors. Because if two colors are very similar in value, but they're different colors, they will still stand out from each other. And so working in black and white like this has really been a big help to me as far as seeing where values could use improvement. However, this piece feels very muddled to me. A lot of the colors seem to fit together like one big clump. Since I am planning on redoing this piece, it's likely that I will darken the top half of the wall in this illustration just to see how that looks and to see if that's a part of why it feels off. Because as of right now, the chair almost seems to be blending into the wall where I really want it to stand out because it's a focal point. And speaking of the chair itself, that's another area where I have issues with this piece. The construction of it is a little bit strange, primarily because I don't draw chairs very often, so I need to practice that. So even though there are things that are working for this piece, there are, in my opinion, more that are working against it. And I am glad that I'm able to see those areas where things need improvement. But I also think that this can be a lesson to people who aren't me, or even me as well. Try not to do full illustrations before you're ready. If you feel a little hesitant about it, if you feel like maybe you're not ready, give it another day or so. I'm not going to say to put it off indefinitely because honestly, then it becomes a fear. But if it's more of a conscious decision of, okay, this piece is not developed in the way that I would like it to be, and I understand that there are areas where it could probably be improved, maybe give it some time, let the sketch percolate a little bit and alter it accordingly. Of course, in something like Inktober, this can be a little more difficult, but if I had a do-over, I might have just started a new sketch and used that sketch to create Day 28's piece, instead of pushing forward with something that I knew wasn't going to work. So I hope that this video was helpful to you in some way. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.